Thank you very much for watching this video. Before we begin, I wanted to include a disclaimer, as I include in my about section as well as in the description of this video. All of my readings are for entertainment purposes only. They are never, ever meant to diagnose, treat, or otherwise have any influence upon your own medical issues or situations that you may have. I always encourage everyone to make their own sound decisions, including legal matters, financial matters, and every other matter in your own life. These are for entertainment purposes only. As these are general tea leaf readings, again, it makes sense, therefore, that some of this information will resonate with you and some of it may not. You may find that some applies and some doesn't. That is completely normal and to be expected, as these are general tea leaf readings. So again, take what you will and leave what you don't, and simply enjoy your reading and hope that you find it informative and insightful. Thank you. Hello everyone, welcome back. My name is Sarah. Yes, your coffee drinking tea leaf reader is back for yet another general bi-weekly tea leaf reading. Thank you again so much for watching, and I really hope that you enjoy this video and that you find it to be helpful and informative, maybe even a little bit inspiring and helpful. This is a general bi-weekly tea leaf reading, obviously, for the weeks retroactive reading for the weeks of July the 17th, very great number, as well as July the 24th, so these past 2 weeks. Now the reason obviously why this has been retroactive, if you haven't clicked over to my community tab or checked my community tab recently, I have it, and yay, and I've been posting there a couple times now, posted twice so far as of recording this anyway, and I was just giving quick updates, and to shorten a very long story, I had a bit of a minor medical issue, annoying and painful, and that persisted throughout most of the month of July, and therefore that resulted in me not even being able to record or post any videos at all. It had affected my speech a little bit, so if I sound a little bit, not pronouncing my words correctly, that's why, but I'm perfectly fine. But thank you so much again for watching and for all of your patience and support. I never allow these delays to stop me from posting. If I have a delay, apologies for the delays, but I'm always going to keep posting these readings, even if they are retroactive. In this case, I'm still going to post them. I'm not going to not post it. So again, I hope that you enjoy this tea leaf reading. So even though it is retroactive, hopefully when you're watching this, you can sort of look back on these past 2 weeks and see if this resonates with you at all, and hopefully maybe even gain a little bit of insight as to, in confirmation, validation, whatever the case is. If you can receive whatever you need to receive for the greatest good of all involved from watching this video for the past 2 weeks, then I hope that you do so. So thank you so much again, and now let's get started with this tea leaf reading. Quick reminder, I read chronologically, so the top, the rim, is the current situation, the sides are on the way, and the base is more of the distant future. So now, on the way, and later. And in our case, for this tea leaf reading, the rim is representing the beginning of the week of July the 17th. Again, good number. And as the side progresses, as we go down the side, it is representing as those 2 weeks progress. Around the middle is around the beginning of the week of July the 24th. And the base represents the end of the week of July 24th and the weekend of this past weekend, heading into this week. Looking at the rim, it does appear that 2 weeks ago it began with one main event or situation where things were relatively calm and clear and quiet, and we were happy with that, or we wanted things to get moving a little bit more. However, that was also the case, most likely from what I'm seeing, in another area as well. There were also likely a few very smaller, much minor events or situations taking place. However, again, for the most part, it was those 2 main events or situations, with the one being much more significant than the other. So looking at the leaves, it appears as though we do have a layout that I do often see, and if you've watched previous tea leaf readings that I've done so far on this channel, the layout is quite often or quite frequently similar, where there is one main event or situation being shown, and this is absolutely no different, where we do have, again, a main area, a main event or scenario, which was taking place the past 2 weeks. It was comprised of one main, like the core of it, the center of it, the focus of it, did have a lot of surprises as well as clarity. So a situation where we sort of know where we stand, where we stood, and at the same time, we're not too sure. So we know and yet we don't know. It's one of those kinds of situations. Also, two other parts rather to this main eventer scenario situation where there was a lot of thinking and talking, things up in the air, conversations and discussions, things of that nature were also taking place. But these three sections are all part of the main event or situation. So there were also two other situations, one smaller and one more significant, taking place, which were indirectly related to this main event or situation. Aside from that, there were a few other smaller situations, and specifically 3 of them. Again, very much minor, just saying that in case it makes sense to you. Things more up in the air. 3 situations where things were calm and clear and quiet, and or we want things to get moving. However, like there was one that was like the main one, and then there were the other smaller ones happening or present as well. And at the same time, you would not be pulled in different directions where we were just not really required to focus on too many other different events or situations, where we were really able and truly able to focus on this one main event or scenario, and again, not have too many distractions. We had some, but nothing of a huge amount of significance. Certainly as the first week led into the second week. Once it became once we got to the beginning, roughly the beginning of last week, maybe around the Tuesday even, it looks like things really did begin to get more busy, essentially, especially in one main area, which was actually a result of or connected with some of the smaller events or situations which began taking place at the beginning of 2 weeks ago. Kind of small, like I just said, and then as I'm looking here, I'm like, oh, okay, it was actually more significant than we may have realized at the time. It just led to something more significant. But that situation in and of itself, things were up in the air for the most part, a lot of thinking, conversations, things of those lines, along those lines rather. And that absolutely leads into the base, which is this past weekend, heading into approximately this past weekend and heading into this week. Some of us may have had a trip planned, or a trip that was actually more accurately taking place at the end of last week. Would have been fairly significant, even a slightly longer trip. That could absolutely have been the case. Now, if that wasn't the situation, then if it wasn't a trip or a travel excursion, then it was another event or scenario that was taking place. Either way, essentially from what I'm seeing, there were 5 different parts or sections to it. Whether this is like one trip with 5 parts or 5 individual excursions or situations that were related in some way or shape or form, they were connected. Let's look at the main event or situation. It looks like at the beginning of 2 weeks ago, it began with something very good, receiving something very positive, whatever that may have been. That also involved some form of unconventional stability. In case you're not familiar or not too sure what I mean by that, for example, I use examples a lot because I find it conveys the meaning of what I'm trying to explain, because tea leaf reading, I mean, this could literally be referencing any kind of unconventional stability, so I use examples a lot. For example, you paint boxes and you sell them online and you make money. It's unconventional, however, it does provide some form of stability. So, hence unconventional stability. Something different and unique, but giving us a sense of security. So, that's what I'm saying that was taking place at the beginning of 2 weeks ago. Prelude, rather, to this main event or scenario. Which also, by the way, side note, gained traction, became more important and larger overall as the whole situation unfolded during the past 2 weeks. That individual scenario was connected to a form of a partnership that involved abundance and prosperity. It was a partnership that was being contemplated, and it looks like it was progressing at that time anyway. It was progressing very well. Nothing really being held back in terms of being inhibited. It looked like it was moving ahead quite nicely. Certainly a sense of loving and harmoniousness that was involved with that. Now, was that a romantic scenario or not? I don't know, obviously. But at the very least, it was a very good scenario, very loving and supportive. Happy too. It's a good situation. And it likely involved some form of messages, news, and or information. Person, place, or thing with the letter S. And there may have been a Scottish connection of some kind that was involved. So specifically with the letter S. Messages being received, all clear, things progressing nicely, messages being clearly understood. This also could very well have been related to change. It's a time of happiness. There's a cheeky, winking, happy face. So feeling good, feeling happy, things progressing well, as well as a helpful individual in the letter S in the name. May also have been a fire sign, and this all had to do, or this was all related rather, with going within, research, further knowledge, researching, looking into topics, gaining wisdom, acquiring knowledge, things along those lines. Unconventional stability again. Some of you watching may have had a connection with a house. You may have been thinking of moving. If so, I would say that it was nicely forming, not quite ready to happen yet, but taking shape quite nicely, actually. And we were receiving very good things associated with that. There may have been a Cancerian connection, so whether this is specifically yet again as a reference to the home and or family, if not that, then the other qualities of that sign being, like Cancerian, the crab, of emotion, intuition, healing, things along those lines. And there seems to be a theme of feeling good. Things were progressing nicely. It was a good situation. Things were good, positive. Person, place, or thing with the letter L, departed loved one being shown in here. Quite likely a male. Now, he also may have been known, if this is referencing you, one of your departed loved ones. This individual would have worn a hat. Wearing a hat would have been a significant trait or characteristic, something that was unique to that individual, or a defining characteristic of that individual, something that you could identify that person as. Wearing a hat, something specific about that. There was a significance around that. And this is related to thinking of a new idea, a new concept, new creative projects, creating new things, a new opportunity that was being shown. Partnerships were also a theme from the S and or 5 connection that I mentioned just a few moments ago. Preceded a situation where it was very abundance and prosperity. There were some surprises regarding that, or even looking back, there may be some surprises or clarity yet to be determined. But anyway, in any case, abundance and prosperity that involved possibly a person, place, or thing with the letter D and or J in a loving and harmonious scenario. Number 3, and could very well also have been involving a house connection as well. Even though there were surprises, it became more apparent or more real. The situation changed. It became more of a definitive situation, like it was going to happen, something to that effect. Letter W, person, place, or thing. Again, that Cancerian connection. Letter E, that involved 2 people in close communication with each other. Happiness, jubilation, abundance and prosperity that involves the letter M and W. Partnerships, working with other people. Letter J, 2 pieces of news. And this is likely not to do with the home and or family, but we were receiving them. And it was a very loving and happy scenario. Resulted sense of going for what you want to have, life force, vitality, not being held back, excitement, joy, action, and momentum. I keep seeing close communication between 2 individuals, stability, the angel, and or if not that, I'm seeing a number 4, so I'm saying the number 4 in case it makes sense to you individually, if that number has a significance to you. An Aries and or Taurus connection with the number 4. Receiving good things and stability. Letter M, loving and harmoniousness. Helpful individuals involved. Happiness, jubilation, positive changes, but changes. Letter G, that involved messages, news, and or information, specifically 2 parts to that, 2 pieces of news. I don't know if some of you were having loving romantic scenarios or not, but I keep seeing hearts. So it was a very good scenario. In that situation specifically, there was a conclusion, and it was a minor one, that involved open communication between two individuals. It may have been more of a distance communication, though, maybe not like face-to-face in the same room, but maybe over like a video call or something to that effect. Partnerships, lots of working with other people. Letter L, unconditional love, support, loyalty, and commitment. Creative projects, new beginnings, a scenario where we felt guarded and protected. Safety, security. Number 3, now there may have been a connection with yoga, Eastern philosophy. I'm seeing a version of the Om symbol. There's a connection with that and receiving divine guidance, angelic support, angelic help, angelic guidance, as well as the number 3 and letter A and letter L. That all helped to create a small minor conclusion. But it's interesting because even though it was a conclusion, it involved a new beginning too. It was a conclusion, but it was the start of something new. Something new was beginning as a result of it. There were 2 conclusions, one more significant and one smaller or less significant. Again, forward movement, going for what you want to have, not being held back. And at the same time, though, however, taking time out for your own self-care in whatever way, shape, or form that may have been. Abundance and prosperity. Specifically 2 situations where we were receiving very good things, and that involved documents of some kind, paperwork. Really taking time out for our own self-care, being open and aware of divine guidance, a reminder that the angels are around you, whatever the situation was, but I keep seeing angels. Independent thought, thinking uniquely, thinking for yourself. Now, there very well may have been a small scenario where we were kind of disappointed, maybe things weren't going the way that we thought we wanted them to go, but it truly seems to me like it was a matter of perspective. If it was a setback, it seems like it was a very temporary one. It all had to do with love, support, unconditional love, support, loyalty, commitment, protection, companionship, guardianship. Those qualities, from what I'm seeing, absolutely were present. That involved person, place, or thing with the letters F and or E, being able to do things, get things done, get things completed rather quickly and easily. Partnerships forming. Now, approximately, we are looking at the beginning of last week, the beginning of the week of July the 24th. Jubilation, happiness. Feeling good. There was an American connection, may specifically had to do with Florida or the East Coast, that specifically involved abundance and prosperity, quite likely a partnership that led to another form of abundance and prosperity that was forming beautifully, and that had to do with reassurance, as well as a new opportunity that is all love. It's all a loving, harmonious scenario. Partnerships, abundance and prosperity, going for what you want to have. Young individuals, children, being that they were present somehow, some kind of significance with children at the beginning of last week, approximately. The letter Z or Z, depending on where you are in the world, as well as L and E, people, places, or things. That was in relation to a few unknowns, a few surprises, as well as partnerships, abundance and prosperity. There was definitely, from what I'm seeing, there was an abundance and prosperity that also involved the letters P and L, with a partnership that was, it's an abundance and prosperity that's beautifully forming. May have a house or housing or property connection in some way, shape, or form. But it's material wealth. Now, that could very likely also have a connection in some way with Scorpio. This is not to do with timing, obviously, because we're looking at July, but it has to do most likely with someone who is that sign involved, and or the qualities and or characteristics of Scorpio. So like going within, delving within, healing, knowledge, that along the psychic ability, those kinds of characteristics, looking at the shadow, that kind of thing. There was also a letter R associated. So P, L, and or R involved. M, L, L. Lots of letters. And C, happiness, that involved a letter W and messages, news, and or information, receiving communication of some kind. Electronic communication like email, phone call, text message, things of that nature. A reminder that our departed loved ones are around us. Departed loved one with the letter B involved. Also with the number 5. Now, 5 again has shown up in here like 4 or 5 times already. So it could 5 for myself as a reference for myself means change. So the past like 2 weeks, especially 2 weeks ago, it was like change. This to me also represents change. Positive changes moving forward. A scenario that involves a lot of partnerships, working with other people. Again, letter S and or 5. And U, letter U. There may also have been a Libran connection, so someone who is astrologically Libran, and or the qualities of that sign, such as balance, harmony, things along those lines. I'm not an astrologer, don't pretend to be. As the situation was unfolding towards the middle to the end of this past week, things became a lot more surprises, a lot more unknowns, and at the same time it also provided clarity. A conclusion that involved 2 people communicating, letter J, working with other people, connected with a house, property. Letter C, there may have been 2 properties, one was more obvious than the other, something to that effect. This all helped to create a new opportunity, positive movement forward. Letter W, 2 people openly communicating. A lot of open communication, which resulted in another new opportunity that involved happiness, jubilation, creating new things, new creative projects, making new things, maybe referencing a new child. So congratulations. Positive partnership. It's like one opportunity leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. That's what I'm seeing. But it ultimately looks like it resulted in a new partnership with a new opportunity, with a letter W involved. And this was at the end of this past weekend, Thursday or probably Friday or so, heading into this past weekend. Many helpful people involved. Definitely a reminder here that of divine guidance, knowing that the angels are around us. We have divine helpers around us at all times. Please do not ever feel like you are alone. You have a lot of divine help around you, in my opinion. Again, so many helpful people. Communication with many people. There literally may have been a situation where there were 3 people involved in a scenario. One may have been like a parent or an authority figure of some kind. Artistic creativity involved. A helpful individual who is a male, that involves a form of abundance and prosperity, possibly an Australian connection. Letter E, children. A children connection. Thinking independently, love and harmoniousness, abundance and prosperity. Keep seeing it. 2 letter E's. Yeah, I keep seeing references to a house, but there's 2 houses at the same time. So there may have been one property that is more obvious or significant or important or whatever the case or situation was, as well as one that was less important, less significant, less apparent, maybe not the ideal choice, but 2 properties. Keep seeing it. As well as a reminder with those 2 E's that there is unconditional love, support, loyalty, commitment, those qualities intensely present in whatever that situation is referencing, as well as the letter J and S, maybe 5. Letter N, open communication. At that point in time, there was a situation that involved this open communication, and it was a loving scenario, maybe even a little playful. It was between a guy and a girl. Possibly the letter T and or a Scorpio connection. Qualities of that sign and or someone who is that sign. And to conclude, heading into the base, it looks like this past weekend and heading into this week, it's going to be quite busy. We are in for a huge amount of abundance and prosperity this week as well as next week. I'm always so happy whenever I see a tree is in the base and you can see a beautiful tree forming. You can see the canopy at the top and the trunk is beginning to form there, and it's actually on land. It's almost similar to a tree of life. It's forming, not clearly present, but it's present. It is clear. It's still in the forming stages. So from what I'm seeing, there was a great amount of abundance and prosperity that was taking place at the end of the week of July the 24th. And very significant change. It's another quality of Scorpio. Change, transformation, new beginnings. Person, place, or thing with the letter P, yet again, involved. It was a helpful individual. Letter M and E and A, new opportunities. A lot of love. Working with other people. Loving and harmoniousness. Number 3, J, some kind of advancement, action, momentum. Letter W was also present in that scenario at the end of this past weekend, twice. Again, a possible Libran connection. Letter E and W yet again. It was a very fortuitous situation that was taking place that involved a loving and harmonious scenario and an individual, likely a male, that was present at that time. And also someone who was likely Aries and or Taurus. Letter A, again, person, place, or thing. Abundance and prosperity. And I'm going to leave it there. A lot of positive changes and a lot of surprises that we're really not supposed to know right now, but a lot of abundance too. So thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate your time and your support, and I do hope that you enjoyed this tea leaf reading. I'm also going to be posting the new bi-weekly tea leaf reading. Quite likely you will have already seen it posted by now. I'm going to be posting that imminently as well, just to get myself caught up. If you haven't yet already, I am on TikTok, so I'm starting myself up on TikTok. So if you want to head over to that platform, all the links are in the description box below. If you'd like to leave a comment in the comment section below, it always makes my day and I love chatting with you. So thank you so much again, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Take care. Hope that you enjoyed this tea leaf reading. Bye-bye.